Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is Time for Love, issue number 33, dated April 1973. Um, it's a product of its time. We can definitely see it by the cover because we see that there is a free, if you buy the comic, full page poster of Susan Day inside from the Partridge Family. Excuse me. See, the cover shows us a woman who is thinking to herself and maybe perhaps falling in love, also thinking that Doug mustn't fall in love with me, I will die soon. And the title of this story is The Last Days of Naomi Jones. And that is the last story. It's definitely the best drawn story. But again, it's sort of one of these, people causing their own problems stories. So the first story is No Room for Love. We have Andrew. We have his son Craig, who looks like a toddler. And we have Lee. Lee is a brunette. She's there as kind of a quote babysitter / companion. And she had taken the job because she said she was feeling lonely. So basically what happened is that Andrew's wife died, and Andrew obviously has to take care of this infant son. He has a career to balance along with raising his son. So he basically hired the nanny here. So this is basically Fran Dresser, and she kind of does look a little like Fran Dresser here. So anyway, we see that Andrew, he goes off to work. Lee is there with the kid. She's thinking to herself that his wife died a few months ago, and he'll probably never marry again. And he's just thinking that the memory of his dead wife will just kind of carry on with his life. So we see Lee, and she's thinking back to she's dreaming of a prior relationship that she had. So Lee was dating this guy, Alan. She was just totally in love with him. He said he was in love with her. They're passionately kissing, and he had told her that our love will always last. But Lee thinks to herself with a tear in her eye, but it only lasted until that redhead came along. And apparently we see Lee, she catches Alan and the redhead on the balcony. So Lee realizes that Alan hasn't been faithful to her. So this is her heartbreak. And this is why she was probably feeling lonely and took that au pair job. So we see Lee is interacting with Craig. Craig is a nice kid. He doesn't ask too much of Lee. Lee finds him pleasant. They're talking about their daddy. Craig's daddy. Lee thinks he's a wonderful guy. So anyway, Lee takes the little kid out for a walk because I guess he's around 2 years old. And there's a guy there's a truck driver who drives by. He tries to pick her up. And the thing is that Andrew is away so often that sometimes Craig doesn't kind of remember what his own father who his own father is. So as the truck driver is catcalling Lee, Craig thinks that this is his dad. Lee is like, of course not. That is not your father. And then Lee says, your father is much nicer than that guy who harassed me. Craig is like, do you like my daddy? And she kind of says, yes, I like him as a person. But she has that kind of look in her eyes that she's just thinking about him. Andrew does call to check up on Craig. He's in Utah right now. from hotel. Um, See that that Craig is listening to what his dad is saying. He's saying that we both love you, and good night and stuff like that. So it's kind of like, and then this is sort of a creepy part here. Apparently, Andrew had asked Craig to do something, and what he did was say, "Hey, Craig, can you kiss Lee goodnight for me?" So this guy, he's using his own son as kind of almost this unwitting wingman here. So he's using his son to creep on the girl, and someone who's employed by him. So anyway, Andrew. It turns out that Andrew's there this weekend. He's with the son, and but the thing is that Craig wants Lee to go with them. So it's not Lee. So Craig doesn't just want his dad; he also wants Lee with her. So again, he's using his kid as a wingman. So anyway, the three of them do go out. So it's kind of like a pseudo date. If you were passing this couple by, you would look at the three of them and think it's just a young married couple. So anyway, they're having dinner after leaving the amusement park. They're really hitting it off, and Andrew gets physically closer to Lee as they watch their son sleeping, and the two embrace. But for some reason, Lee believes that Andrew really doesn't love her, and he breaks away from this embrace. Andrew was digging it, and suddenly he's like, "What the hell happened?" She runs off, and Andrew's a little surprised because Lee went along with this. Lee runs to her sister. She's crying. The sister's like, "Dude, it sounds to me like this guy loves you," and Lee is kind of just talking herself out of that. So it turns out the two have not been in contact for 2 weeks, and he's wondering why Andrew hasn't called her in the 2 weeks. She kind of makes it clear, why he didn't call, but she was like, "You just didn't try hard enough." So anyway, Lee does get a call, and it's from Andrew, and she's saying that Craig is sick, and he's asking for you, and I don't know, what to do. And of course, Lee, who has a bond with Craig, because she enjoyed being the babysitter, she rushes to the house, and it turns out that it was all a ruse. Craig is fine. Lee says, "Hey, this kid is fine." Andrew says, "Well, yeah, I lied." So he admits to lying to get her there. And from there, he kind of just gets closer to Lee, and he says, "Listen, you really do love me, don't you?" And that's the end. Yeah, this couple's not going to make it. I mean, this kid used his own kid. This dad used his own kid to manipulate this woman. So yeah, nah, they're not going to make it. Okay, we look and we see the full page pinup of Susan Day, and it's a drawing of her. It's a pretty good drawing. It does look like her. But the facial features are a little bare, so I'm not sure whether Susan would have liked this or not. Okay, so we go to the second story. And again, it's kind of one of those I fell in love with my stalker stories. Okay, so the woman is Eve. She kind of has like a Tina Louise thing going on. The guy is Robbie, so it's these two, and it's sort of like Robbie's kind of like the quote protector or protector creeper, depending on how you want to look at it. Same we see, it's a beach. They're on the beach. Lee is with a gentleman named Vincent. Vincent is getting very frisky with Lee, and we see Robbie's kind of looking judgmentally at the two from a short distance. Um, Eve is definitely annoyed with Robbie, saying this guy's always following me. He's always butting in, and he's kind of getting on my nerves. So Robbie approaches the two, and he says to Vincent, "Hey, do you want to make this a foursome?" And Vincent is like, "What the hell do you mean by that, a foursome?" And then it turns out that Robbie found out that Vincent was married. So Lee is here like messing around and dating a married man. And then that causes the two to get into a fist fight. Vincent, he leads with his right, which is not a good idea. Robbie ducks it, and then he hits him with a right, which is fine. And then yeah, Vincent is left with a black eye. And he's left with a hurt ego because now Eve doesn't want anything to do with Vincent. So it creates kind of an awkward situation where Robbie, on one hand, did do Eve a favor by warning her, but on the other hand, he was intrusive, and he has been consistently intrusive in her life. And she's kind of tired of the two, of this situation. And Eve is just saying, "Get out of my life. I never want to see you." And I mean, she does acknowledge that Robbie did do her a favor, but at the same time, she's getting frustrated with this guy kind of hanging around, kind of almost tisk-tisking her choice of dates. So anyway, Eve goes home. She's talking to her mom. I think the mom says that an old associate of ours, Louis Crane, called. She remembers Louis from school, I think. And the two set up a date. So Eve is going out with this Louis guy. And they're getting to know each other. They're at a fancy restaurant. Eve is talking about their school days. And they're talking about Robbie now. Okay, so they're talking about Robbie. She's saying that, "Hey, we were friends since school, and he seems like an older brother to me." Louis saying, "Listen, there's nothing brotherly about his affection toward you." And he's saying that, Robbie really does have deep feelings for you. And then Louis saying, "Hey, it's just that he just can't tell you." Because I don't know why he won't let anyone else know. Oh yeah, yeah. So Louis, this guy Louis, kind of throwing a monkey wrench into how Eve thinks about Robbie, because he's telling her, yes, this guy is romantically loves you, but at the same time, he's kind of like this possessive a-hole that you may not want to love. So yeah, Lou's kind of playing. He's kind of playing with Eve here. So the two are they're in the car. They're making out. Eve remembers that Robbie didn't want her dating Lou. So she's thinking back, hold it, he warned me about her. He warned me about him, so I have to heed this warning. That's the position Eve is taking. So she wants to get out of the car. She wants to go home. Lou is like, no. There are certain rules in makeout land, and you got to do this. However, Eve is not hearing it. She slams the door on Lou, saying that you're kind of a creep and that Robbie was right about you. So anyway, Eve is very upset. She's crying. I think he drove her out far away from where she lives because then Robbie had to Uber it to her location. So yeah, she's calling for help. He's being Captain Save-A-Ho. The two are talking. They're talking about Lou, how he was a kind of a jerk, and talking about their feelings, because Eve is saying, "Hey, I've always thought of you as a brother, and you always acted brotherly toward me. You never acted romantically." And Robbie's saying, "No, I always had a crush on you. But the thing was, the timing wasn't good, and I couldn't act on it. And by the time that there was a chance for me to act on it, we had known each other so long, we seemed more like brother and sister." So Robbie is always kind of thought that Eve wasn't interested in him, and Eve is saying, "No, that was a bad assumption." So the two embrace, and yeah, it's kind of like I fell in love with my stalker. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about this couple. Be 50-50. Okay, so I'm going to look at the advice column. It's called Teenage Troubles. Although this person who wrote in is not a teenager, although they're pretty young. He mentions that he's 21, so he's kind of like in that age range. It's actually a guy, and basically what happened was he's a young guy. He got married at a young age. His family did not have much money. But the thing was, the woman that he married, her family has money. And that came up because what happened was the guy's family-in-law, his father-in-law and his mother-in-law, they invited their daughter to a cruise, but they didn't invite him. And the problem is that he's bothered by this. He was like, "Hey, I think maybe a wife should be with their husband." And when your parents made that offer, and they said, but your husband can't go, you still said yes to that deal. And he's kind of bothered by that. He does mention that he's 21 years old, and he's an assistant manager in a large chain store. So he's kind of like one of these ambitious guys, and he figures that in 2 years he can be a manager of a store. So he has a little bit of ambition. He just didn't have any money. And yeah, his father-in-law is a big lawyer, and the mom is an accountant. So yeah, they both have well-paying jobs, and the family also has a little bit of money. And it turns out, they were decent toward him, because they mentioned that they weren't overly happy with the daughter, but they didn't object either, and they did throw him a nice wedding. So the issue is with the not going on that trip, and there's kind of the doctor. He's kind of going through a couple of things. He's kind of says that you should maybe question whether your wife really loves you or not, because she should be advocating that you go along with them. I guess the thing is he can't pay for it himself. But at the same time, the family might be thinking it might be embarrassing if we had asked him and kind of paid his way like he was a little kid and not a married guy. So, yeah. So there was no real answer to this question. I think he asked, should I speak up about it? And I think he says, yeah, you should say something. Okay. So anyway, we're going to go to the last story. It's definitely the best drawn story. The artist did leave a name. It's Mo Osteen. I'm not quite sure what it is. But nevertheless, this person had pride in their work. They should, because it's really well drawn. It turns out that our protagonist is Naomi and Doug. And she's thinking about this guy Doug and all the cool things that she has done since she met him. And we see that they're on vacation. She's scuba diving, and they're driving this convertible really fast. But it turns out Naomi only has a few months to live. She's very sad about that. So we get the start of the story. Naomi lives at home. She's feeling some pain. She's telling her mom that she's feeling some pain. Normally, this type of pain and where it is would be kind of an alert, but they do make it clear it's not on the belly area. It's kind of like slightly above the rib cage. Naomi's mom says you should visit the family doctor, so she goes and sees him, and it turns out they took out a biopsy, and they x-rayed the area, and her doctor says, I'm going to ask, Dr. Heinrich to look at it. Now, Naomi doesn't know who this doctor is. So she knows that a little biopsy was taken from her and it's being sent to this doctor. And she's trying to guess what type of doctor is this, so she can kind of figure out what her diagnosis might be. She's upset. One of her friends is a nurse, and she knows of this doctor, and she tells Naomi that this is a cancer specialist. Naomi is broke up by this, beautifully drawn here, I should say. She hears the word cancer. Cancer in 1972 was a hard thing to break. Was a hard thing to get over, lack of a better word. So anyway, Naomi's bothered by this. She feels that maybe she'll only have a few months to live. And she decides that she wants to live. So she goes to the bank. She basically empties out her bank account. And she just wants to live life, for what she believes is the last few months of it. It turns out that, she goes to a travel agent. She's recommended the Greek islands, saying that they're inexpensive, they're very glamorous. You'll meet a lot of great people there. So Naomi decides to go to the Greek islands. I'm guessing that the person who drew this was there too. Naomi is convinced that she's dying of cancer. This whole thing has been an assumption, so she's making her own problems. And the doctor, who apparently can clear all this up, Naomi doesn't want to talk to him because she feels that the doctor will give her bad news and it will ruin her vacation. So she kind of wants to be ignorant of the facts. So the plane lands in Greece. It turns out they're not in Athens, but they're at another airport in Greece. The flight crew is taken by Naomi. Naomi's a very beautiful woman. It looks like the pilot of the plane is talking to her, one of the flight attendants. They were called stewardess back then, and they're giving kind of Naomi some suggestions. So then the pilot and Naomi, they have this romantic dinner at this Greek restaurant. They're kissing in front of some of the famous Greek statues. So Naomi is really enjoying herself right now. However, there's a little bit of sadness in this because Naomi also believes that she's going to live for a few more months, which means that she's not going to want to invest in any type of, romantic relationship that's going to be, quote, long term, because she realizes that, or she believes that she's short term. So she's at this moment where she's very happy. She also breaks it off with the pilot because, again, she thinks she's dying. She has a friend with her on this flight, and the friend kind of drives Naomi out of this town because she wants to get away from this pilot and the memories of him. She kind of has a frenemy relationship with her friend because her friend is also joking that Naomi is so wonderful and so charming, so beautiful that it'll be hard for, geeky girls like me to get anything. But Naomi's her head's like 1,000 miles away at this point. We see a beautiful drawing of a Greek village here along the I guess one of the seas. It turns out there's a guide there, and he's like a very good-looking, charming guy, and Naomi and the friend are kind of interested in exploring the island. It looks like the guide wants to explore Naomi. He's very charming. The two are companions. They kind of they rock dive into the ocean, and of course he's very taken by Naomi. They're both on the beach, and he's feeling strong. He's having feelings stronger and stronger for her. Excuse me. However, Naomi is she's still a bit reserved because she still believes she's dying. She realizes that she needs to speak to the doctor. And then as she's thinking this, as she's looking out at the sea, Bud, the pilot, sees her. He must have been stalking her. And he sees her and he converses with her, and then oh no, this is Doug, who's a friend of the pilot. So I'm sorry, this is not the pilot, this is a friend of the pilot. And now they're kind of they're together now, and they're doing some fast driving. They're going to gourmet places. Naomi falls in love so easily. So these two are kissing. They're talking about the fact, Doug is talking about the fact that I just met you yesterday, but I feel like I'm in love with you. Naomi says, no, you can't fall in love with me. Doug says, why? She tells Doug about the diagnosis and what's going on. However, Doug realizes that, hey, this is all assumption on her part. She did not actually check with that damn doctor. So Doug is pushing her, hey, you need to call that doctor so you can escape the diagnosis that you made up and get the real diagnosis. But it turns out Naomi doesn't want to talk to him. So Doug does the talking. I guess there was no HIPAA or that Medical Privacy Act, because the doctor's just giving him Naomi's medical history. It turns out that it was a tumor, but it's non-malignant, saying that we can just easily cut you up and just kind of snip it out there. So with this diagnosis, Naomi knows that she's not going to die. However, she does know that the man that she met yesterday is the man that she wants to spend the rest of her life with. So, yeah, this is not good. This is not good. I give this coupling a dim future because they have to actually know each other. Okay, we see some of Charleston's titles. I'll try to do as many of these as I can. So that's it, and that is my review of Time for Love, issue number 33, and I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.